This week's show is brought to you by Miracle Made. Brad and Alex. I like sleeping.
It's maybe my favorite thing.
It's a pretty good thing.
Learning a lot about you as we do these ads. You like to eat and you like to sleep.
These are true. Yeah. These are both. Look, I would say love both of those, but sleeping is high on my list. Things that are not high on my list are uncomfortable sleeps. Very low on the list of things I enjoy.
That sucks.
Maybe near the bottom. Miracle Made sheets are there to help you with a better quality sleep. It says here, inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. That perfect temperature to me would be near Arctic freezing, but I have to say I've enjoyed my Miracle brand sheets, and it has been very warm these last few weeks. Self-cooling properties for better quality sleep is what they say here. And I was shouted from the rooftops because I'm all about better quality sleep.
I mean, they're like silver.
Silver infused.
They look like space.
That silver infused, Brad, can also, says here, prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving your sheets to stay cleaner and fresher 3 times longer than other sheets.
That's good, because I'm going to tell you, microbes not high on my list.
No, that's also bad, both in sleeping and eating. Go to trymiracle.com/Nextlander to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo Nextlander at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Nextlander. Use the code Nextlander to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. That's trymiracle.com/Nextlander to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another extremely special edition of the Nextlander podcast. Every edition's a special edition, but some are more special than others. Brad Shoemaker, Alex Navarro.
Yes, Vinny.
I'm not going to leave our guest hanging over decades plus of having guests on. I realize when we talk too long here, it's weird because, like our other guests, we always invite professional people on who don't talk until they're introduced. Jordan Miner, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Very excited about this.
To have you. I haven't seen you since we were in the office over at what building would you call that? Was it the CBS Interactive building? Was it 28th Street building?
I just call it 28th Street.
I was called 28th Street because we were definitely not working for CBS.
That's true. That's true.
Listen, we were all working for CBS, okay? You just didn't know it. You are above us. Jordan Miner, you are here because you are author of Video Game of the Year, and I love this subtitle, a year-by-year guide to the best, boldest, and most bizarre games from every year since 1977, which is just, we'll talk about why on earth you would take on that task. You are also a senior analyst at PCMag.com. What's a senior analyst?
I'm a writer. I'm on the apps and gaming team.
Okay.
So I write about games. I write about Netflix and dating apps and
you're
meal
analyzing
kits at some point. Yes.
You're analyzing games. You were in the same building as us. You definitely heard us because I feel like when I would see you outside, you would know exactly when we had podcasted, or especially when Alex had been doing a Rock Band marathon.
Yeah, there was a hole in the floor, the sound hole we would call it, and we could hear. It really helped me feel like more that I was making it in this industry of like, wow, I'm so close to the action.
You were basically a guest on all the podcasts.
Now, was this an intentional hole? Was this a regulation? Was this hole to code, or was this like not supposed to be there kind of hole?
It looked like the remnants of a pipe, maybe.
Okay.
It was okay. First of all, I think it's kind of funny, and I know I've talked to you about this before, but like half funny, half people are trying to do work. Where was the sound hole for you guys?
It was just in the middle of our like rows of benches and desks.
Which is terrifying, thinking back to the amount of conversations we used to have in that podcast room that were like, okay, shut the door. We're going to have some conversations, knowing that basically all of that was just floating upstairs. I mean, we
knew all
tried,
our dark secrets, man.
It wasn't that clear. It was all just sort of the vague shape of your voices.
A lot of mumbled hollering, just sort of like muffled. Okay.
We also had to be careful because we were in paper-thin walls on either side of us anyway, and there was a conference room to one side and another podcast studio to the other side, so we tried to be aware there as well. But great to see you again. I mean, it's probably been 3 years?
4 years?
More than that.
Oh, yeah?
Because we moved into the Mashable building in like 2018.
Okay.
So... And then
so it was probably in the
happened.
elevator sometime shortly before that was like the last time I actually saw you in person.
Because that was the one time we were in the elevator, and then a bunch of us from the office got in the elevator, and we just crowded the elevator, and we were all like, oh, like it stopped on the next floor. It's like, oh, too bad for this person trying to get in the elevator. And then it was you, and we all knew who you were, and we all just started laughing. And it's like...
I think I remember
he doesn't know the context of why we were all laughing at
Let
him.
me just put it this way. I still remember that.
Long memories. Jordan, we got a lot to talk about here because there have been a couple of releases since 1977. So you've got this book out.
Yes,
came out in July?
Yes, July 11th it came out.
Oh, you're holding it up like people could see it.
I've got it right back here.
You've been on this book tour a while, huh? Like people could actually
We hold this up for everyone listening at home.
It's a shame. There's such good artwork in it, too.
It is, and you've got the rack behind you. I love it. It's like you are fully prepared, which is amazing. So it came out in July?
Yes, July 11th.
So we got 300-ish, little fewer than 300 pages of video game knowledge. Not just you. You have a bunch of guests in there. I guess I'll just start with the easy stuff. What's your favorite video game of all time?
My favorite game of all time is probably StarCraft.
Okay.
Now you're speaking Brad's
Okay.
language here. All
I
right.
love StarCraft.
One, right? Is that
The whole
we're talking
thing,
one?
but yeah, we're talking about the first one.
I mean, the whole thing is not a lot of things, to be fair.
But it's funny because StarCraft doesn't get a main chapter in the book. Which speaking to
I noticed that.
I did note that. I will say, as somebody who has been covering games a long time and doing an inadvisable number of games of the year myself, 1998 is the first year I went straight to in this book. Like I went to the table of contents and I was like, all right. What's the pick for 98? I've got to know. It's like probably still the most momentous year in video games, and StarCraft did not make the cut.
No, but it gets the runner-up pick, so it's better than Half-Life.
Yes.
And so you also, I should mention, Dan Reichert does the foreword to the book, and 1998's pick, Metal Gear Solid. Now, I'm not saying there is any kind of horse trading going on here or any kind of influence, but interesting choice. I mean, I could see it. So each year in your book has a subcategory, which I assume, like any good game of the year, was made up after the game was picked. Because 1998's, the category, I should say, 1998's category is basically Hideo Kojima Game of the Year, which winds up being Metal Gear Solid. A lot of runners up for that one. So was it hard? I mean, 98's probably the hardest one I can think of too.
Yeah. So with the book in general, I wasn't necessarily always trying to pick what I thought was the best game of that year. The book is really like just trying to be a video game history book overall. So I try to pick games that collectively I thought could hit the widest variety of topics that I wanted to talk about. Not to get like too redundant with anything. So that was, so I didn't have to think like, oh, this is the best game, completely. It's like, this is just the game I want to talk about that could talk about the topic I want to touch on. So that kind of made it easier, I think.
Well, I think
like in that case, like Metal Gear Solid, it's very much like the cinematic transformation of games, right? It's like,
Totally.
I could look at that and say like, maybe Ocarina is like the actual best game or the most like mechanically significant, but like in terms of pushing the medium forward, it's hard to argue that Metal Gear Solid is not the pick.
Right, and there's already another Zelda chapter, so I can talk about Zelda somewhere else. So yeah, and also
actually, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say too, all the games were chosen before even the writing was happening. It's part of the whole publishing behind the scenes. With nonfiction, you can sell the book before you've written it. So they just want, a proposal and like a detailed, like they want to know all the games that'll be in it. So I just had to here's my list and here's sort of my like thesis for a chapter. But
okay. Yeah, so you basically had the skeleton of it, and then kind of went in and kind of, again, like any good game of the year, you justify it after the fact in the kind of artist statement and the debate. In your forward, I feel like you go into a lot of the inspiration and kind of what a game of the year means for you. It's a chance to kind of look at these games that are seminal releases or important for some reason, and then you go into, but really people just like to argue about what their game is, which when I first started skimming through this book, I went into cold sweats thinking about, my goodness, how many times have we talked about what would be the games of all time, or what are the, games of the decade, and it's an impossible task, and how would you cut this, and how could you even argue for that? And, Rock Band does make this list, and the number of times we've had just off the cuff discussions about like, wow, Rock Band probably has to be in there somewhere, right? Because it's a musical experience. But how about Guitar Hero? Is that the one that makes the cut? And how long did it take you to make this list?
It was a few months. Book speeds is not like internet speed. You have a lot more time to just think about something and work on it. It being only one game per year was also useful in like forcing interesting decisions, in that it couldn't just all be all 80s games or whatever. It's like it had to be like only one game per year, so it really kind of narrowed the pool. And yeah, I just the challenge of it was interesting, and the idea that at the end it would be a physical book that can just exist now was also very motivating.
Only
does,
one.
Does the like kind of piecemeal nature of it, like, okay, so like when I think about like what it would take to write a book, it seems so enormous in my mind. It's like I forget it. I could not even begin to tackle that task. But like each year being its own little compartment, like does that make it easier to just be like, like I'm sick of the 90s, like I'm going to go think about 1979 today, or what, you know what I mean? It's like you could, I would guess you could like break it up into smaller tasks in a way that made it more approachable.
Yeah, they are like big reviews in a sense. It's all kind of big retrospective reviews. Although I did end up writing it pretty much in order. Because I figured, I didn't want to be in a situation where I only do this stuff I'm interested in, and then at the very end of the writing process, it's all this stuff I've been putting off to the end. Well, I'm already kind of burnt out from writing. And that also kind of helped me keep a pretty like a through line, I guess, where I could see like where I already knew what I'd written before and how that could maybe impact further chapters. Like I think readers can read it in any order they want, but I think if they do read it in order, they will see like some stuff from the beginning kind of reappear at the end, and that's how I try to write it.
And you also gave yourself a nice little escape hatch there, where when you do settle on something for a year, with each year you also like, it's like, well, here's another game I just want to talk about that usually is not the exact same sort of thing that the game that you picked for the year was. It usually is something else. It sounds, at least from the ones I read, it sounded more like these are just like personal things that you really loved from those years.
Yeah, to get more games in there, and to just kind of also break up the reading experience. Like, all right, you read this whole long thing, and now here's a short thing before you get to the next one. I just wanted the book to be as comprehensive as possible. So part of that was just getting as many games as I could in there.
There are only a few of them out there. I mean, we're only talking since the 70s, so I mean, there's really not that many to go through. Do you feel like, as you're going through this, do you feel like you had to go back and read it, especially stuff from the 70s, or I mean 78, 79? Are you like, I should go back and spend a lot of time with Speed Freak?
That's a good one to pick, actually, because that's the one I didn't play that.
Who's played Speed Freak?
That was more just through. That was just one that was just interesting to find just through research, and to kind of talk about just like racing games and how they're used for like showing off like new graphics tech, like since the beginning, it turns out. But if anything, the older games were kind of easier to write about, in that we've had so much time to see how important and influential they've been. Whereas with modern games, we're kind of guessing what is going to end up being important later.
Yeah, I mean, there's parts in there, like when you're talking about Donkey Kong, for instance, where like I start reading and I'm like, the degree of importance you were applying to this, my immediate reaction is, it's fucking Donkey Kong, really? And then as I'm reading it, I'm like, actually, yes, you are making a very salient point here about the number of ways in which Donkey Kong has extended out into everything that is video games now. So you know what? You're right.
Cool. Another satisfied customer.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously very interesting to see why the pick is on there, and then to, so there's a little bit of, justification for why your pick is wrong in some cases here. It's hard to argue with this list of games, especially the ones I'm familiar with. I picked that Speed Freak because it was the one that I had to go read and be like, I have never seen Speed Freak.
I've seen Speed Freak before. I've only played it like maybe once ever, but I've seen it. I mean,
you're from Sonoma County, right?
Yeah.
Of course you've seen Speed Freaks.
Well, that's fair, yes. I will say, I'm curious, what has been the most controversial pick so far? Because I know what mine is.
Oh, Spore has been a big one.
Really? Okay.
I've been justifying a lot. Because that's one where it's not the best game of any year, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think which is an interesting kind of lens to talk about gaming, like hype culture and impossible expectations, and how you see that into like crowdfunded games and Peter Molyneux games, and games that launch kind of bad, but then have to like years after the fact work to get to what they were initially promising at launch. So
I mean, that is a huge facet of gaming, especially from that era, was, big marquee designers over-promising on things that just could not quite be done.
Yeah, also, like your subtitle for Spore in this, I think, illustrates that Game of the Year as a phrase can have a very broad meaning that, like you said, does not have to mean best game of the year. Like, you refer to it as the pipe dream of the year, which I guess it probably was. So, yeah, like, it's important, maybe not for the most flattering reason.
Right, yeah. So I didn't want the book to be entirely fawning. I want it to be like arts criticism in a way.
Yeah. So
Spore is this depressing. Does anybody remember Dark Spore?
Yes.
The follow-up to that.
I think that's in the book.
So it's kind of this depressing commentary of like Spore was this huge ambitious idea that completely didn't pan out. Then they just turned it into Diablo. Like they just turned it into a video game, and that was way more popular.
Yeah.
Tragic.
They're Muppets-looking creatures.
Yep. The one I was going to say was controversial to me was you managed to get Mario Kart 64 in there. And while I understand that, hey, there's always, everyone's Mario Kart favorite is different. It's just I remember a lot of people really despising that game. And I think it is bold to go to bat for that one.
That's not my favorite Mario Kart by any means.
Yeah.
I think it was just a good one to put in conversation with Mario 64 and just, with the 4-player N64 stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, I hate that sprites. Just put a model in there.
Yeah.
It's weird. I never liked that.
It was a very awkward time for video game graphics.
So not only are you in here, you've got a bunch of other people in here sharing their thoughts on Game of the Year. Was it hard to get people to contribute, or the people you approached being like, hell yeah, I could tell you my favorite game?
Yeah, I think a lot of people whose entire careers have been online were very excited to be in a book.
I know I was.
Yes, thank you.
I absolutely was. I don't think I've ever been in a book before, so that was nice. It was. I assume you didn't just invite me because of the elevator thing, right?
No.
Just wanted to make sure.
Elevator time.
Yeah.
I was saying before that this book was a really cool opportunity to manifest all of my parasocial relationships.
Hell yeah.
Of writers and people I'd been fans of for years and years and listened to for hours and hours to be like, hey, like, be in this with me.
When you reached out to people, did you ask them, did you give them a year or a frame, like a time frame, or did you just ask them like, hey, do you have a game from the last decade that's your favorite or so?
I wanted to give the writers as much freedom as possible. I think that would lead to the most interesting writing if people would just pick whatever they were passionate about. So I just said, hey, like, I gave them a list of what had already been picked from other people.
Okay.
I gave them some like examples of how, like, I gave an example of one that was a bit more straightforward, and then one that was a little bit more like a personal anecdote. That's kind of like two different tracks they could take. But beyond that, I wanted people to have a ton of freedom. And I think that really paid off with the variety of stuff that I got.
I mean, you let me write about an N64 wrestling game, so I would call that total freedom.
And that's good because I wanted the contributor blurbs to balance out my own takes and biases in that I resent how much I know about wrestling from being a games writer.
Totally.
But that should be in the book somewhere. It's not going to be from me. So I'm really happy that you picked that because you gave me a few options.
Yes,
and
I
did. That was one that I picked.
Yeah.
So some people did that. Some people presented me some options, and then I would pick one. Kind of that was a bit of curation, but beyond that, wide open canvas.
It's fun. It's cool to bebop around and see, like, kind of read this, essay on why a game is super important, and then just hear somebody's kind of love letter to a game, just be like, hey, I was 6 and I love this game, or whatever it was, and not be like, because it's so important to gaming history. Be like, no, because it's the thing I played and it was awesome. I feel like for me, there's two sides of a game of the year. There's the academic side, which is kind of your essay style thing of like, this is why this game is important. It's why it has this big long write up. And then there's the thing that's just like, no, it's because I got this game for Christmas and it was the only game I had, and that's why it's the best game of 1996, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a problem we always have with every game of the year discussion, which is like, at least for work wise, would be like, okay, yes, this is probably the game of the year because it's a very good game and it's well done. It's important to gaming history, but I had the most fun with this other game. And then when you have the group dynamic, kind of like Brad said before, when you have the group dynamic, you have to start balancing all of those versus just being like, it's my personal game of the year list. And I think it's a bit of why we've segued into Nextlander's game of the year stuff of just being like, let's just talk about what we liked and not
just
try
be
to
chill
have,
about it.
Yeah, the consensus thing. Like, could you imagine Jordan doing this book in a committee?
I mean, yeah, no. It needed me just to be like, this is it. These are the picks.
Well,
and then you're all kind of cordoned off in your own little area, but yeah.
That's the question then, is that can you truly call this a game of the year discussion if you weren't beating someone's ass over their picks for stuff? Like, if you weren't just straight up, like, getting into fisticuffs over the choices.
It ends up being kind of more accidental passive aggression. I hate Souls games. I don't like any of those games. But I picked Sekiro because that's the one I probably played the most before Elden Ring. And it's important. I mean, Souls games are worth talking about.
Totally.
But that chapter talks about why I don't like them. But then, Tamor from GameSpot and Scott Benson, they wrote about Bloodborne and Demon Souls and why they love them. And those are great. That's also some of the best writing in the book. So you get to have that conversation.
I got to give it up for the artist in this book, whose name I don't have in front of me.
Ren
right
McDonald.
Now. Okay. Their ability, I mean, all the art has like a really great, like, playful style to it, but specifically their ability to capture like in-game graphics is this illustration, I guess, is the style. I'd say, like, I don't know, a third to maybe a half of the illustrations have, like, a screen in them, like a computer monitor or a TV, so they're actually illustrating like the game itself in graphical form on a screen, and their ability to capture the kind of essential look of each of these games, from like Halo to SimCity to Sonic the Hedgehog, like all these illustrations of these video games, like here's Counter-Strike, like are so spot on at evoking the look of those games. It's really just fantastic work.
Yeah, Ren's great. I actually met him for the first time a few weeks ago. So that the publisher kind of presented me with a list of options for illustrators, and then Ren was my top pick, and so I was really glad we were able to get him. And then he kind of did some like sample art and kind of presented some different like directions he could take it. And we ended up picking like doing a mix of both, a mix of here's like a scene, here's like these characters in the game, and then here's like people playing the game. So we could also get like those period details and like seeing what the consoles look like as well. But yeah, I love Ren's art, and I think it did a really good job too. What we were going for was also having a style that would make as much sense for a Pong illustration as it would for like a Witcher 3 illustration. So yeah, Ren knocked it out of the park. It's stunning.
Yeah, I think it's successful.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely, I think that's a good point. Like, it works across 30 plus 40 years of games, right? You have Destiny on here.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny was the very first chapter written for the book. That was the sample. That was the sample chapter written as part of the proposal. Another game I don't really like.
Wait, that you don't really like?
I don't like Destiny that much, no.
Okay, I haven't read the chapter on Destiny. Do you like Destiny 2?
Nope.
Okay, just
don't like either of them.
Nope. Do you like loot shooters?
I just don't really like games of service as a whole.
Oh my gosh! What do you do? Hey, where are you gonna go? How come to this? Let's all get on an island together and cut the internet. How do you survive in the 2023 gaming age? Everything's gonna check your accounts.
Yeah, I'm just fortunate enough to be someone who writes about games for a living, so I get codes for games I can just beat, so I don't have to worry about spending money on a new game every month.
I was just having this discussion, maybe in the last podcast or so, where my kids now get presented with gates every time they want to play a game that I've downloaded. Be like, oh, you got to enter your Capcom account or your BattleNet account or this, and I'm like, I'm sorry, dude, I'm not making you a BattleNet account. You're 11, you don't need one. And then he can't play it. He can't try Diablo, right? Because everything is a service. Game's a service, which kind of sucks in a way, because you can't just. It's not like the same thing where you can pull a book off a shelf or pull an album off a shelf or even listen to your dad's or your parents' music. It's like I have another barrier to entry to get into this game, which just kind of stinks. Very particular weird case of kids can't play the old man's games, but kind of interesting. I don't mind the cross save stuff though. If we're talking that part of
there are
games as a
benefits
service.
out there.
Yeah,
It just
sure.
Unfortunately, I think the negatives sometimes outweigh the benefits. And I'm actually curious, Jordan, having done this research now and having gone through all this, where do you think video games went wrong? What's the year? Pinpoint it for me.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one on here, like the year where it went wrong.
Where did it all fall apart?
Uncharted 2. No. I mean, there is a sort of a theme of like games preservation too in the book of that. To play a lot of these today would be difficult. Legally is more difficult than it should be. So that's kind of their goal of the book of, well, if you can't play all these necessarily, at least you can read about them.
You can learn about them.
There's an archive that they exist. But I don't know. Games are better than ever. There's so many good games this year. Yeah,
I'm just roasted a little bit, but like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you can track the trends through the book and you can track sort of the evolution. But I think, as much as I grouse about a lot of things like, say, live services and other things in video games, you're right. There's never been a better time to play video games, I've been told multiple times by a certain person on this podcast.
I mean, it's true. I mean, if you can't legally play it, they will sell it to you again in some collector's edition where you can
they
legally
won't.
play it. Look, they won't make money.
I can't help wondering if there was a nugget of truth to your Uncharted 2 answer, though.
The moment the blockbusters took over.
The Sony blockbuster of the year.
Kind of. As a strong advocate for that game as Game of the Year in 2009, I look back on it now and I'm like, I don't know if that was like... It was very exciting at the time, but in retrospect, that maybe was not.
I think it was the right lens of talking about how Sony's whole AAA game-making process, even as it is today, I think that's where it starts, is that game.
Yes,
totally.
For sure.
And now it's like kind of the only thing they make as a first-party company anymore is these just big, giant action blockbusters.
Great.
Yeah.
Fortnite on here.
Yep, that had to be. Yep, I'm trying to make a book that sells to a mainstream audience.
But you're right. I mean, if you're talking about like in terms of impact, like Fortnite is absolutely the one of, was it 2015 when that came out?
2017 for the Battle Royale part of it.
Right, yeah. Like the tail of that game is still being felt. Like we are still dealing with the aftermath of that game becoming video game McDonald's. Like it's fucking everywhere. So how could you not put it in there?
People get mad that I put it in there, though. So
really?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I maybe deserve this, but I went to a GameStop. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's been happening my whole life.
And very casually showed off the book. And I was like, oh, look at me. I got this book here. You're gamers, right? And then they're like, Fortnite, what is this? Blah, blah, blah. So
it's a casual book.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to capture the most important game that came out that year, I mean, not to say that was your only criterion for the stuff, but like there is no other choice that year.
People just see a list and they get mad when it's not the thing they pick on a list. So.
And again, that's why it's a bold choice to call this video game of the year, because you are inviting a level of scrutiny and anger that is, you can't stop it.
That is an interesting one though, because I went back and looked at the history of Fortnite and PUBG in 2017, and like the PUBG early access release to the Fortnite Battle Royale mode coming out is like way shorter of a time span than I think most people remember.
Yeah, like 4 months. Yeah,
it was very short. Yeah, it was like barely enough time for PUBG to blow up, and then for them to implement that idea, right? Like they were very close together. So
or pivot. Let's say you talk about PUBG in the write up for it, which is were you a PUBG player?
Nope.
Again, live service online game.
Yeah, that whole thing blown up like
blind boxes.
Well, yeah. It was. I feel like it became way more. I mean, everything becomes rotten with live service if it's successful for long enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My whole problem more with Battle Royale was the whole. I felt I didn't like the whole. I kind of respected it, like the whole pace of there's a lot of nothing, and then kind of these bursts of excitement.
Mhm.
But I just kind of bounced off that kind of pacing, I guess.
So tell me, so when you play StarCraft, is it just you're not the turtle up and then build like a lot of nothing and then big bursts of, because that's how I play an RTS game, which is build for 45 minutes and then throw everything I have at the other player. You're a rush player, aren't you? You are.
Well, I play Protoss usually, so I feel like that's less effective there.
You say usually. Are you still playing StarCraft? Are you playing StarCraft 2 right now?
No, not really. No. Okay. You can tell because my eyes aren't. This is in the book. When I play StarCraft, my eyes would like get really bloodshot.
Just wouldn't blink.
Exactly.
Oh,
so then when
amazing.
so like back even in the beginning. So when StarCraft 2 elicited that same feeling, like launch day, it's like, all right, we're back. We're back in it.
Wasn't there? We were just talking about StarCraft, Brad. Was it because rumors were circulating?
Some loose rumor going around that StarCraft 3 is in pre-production or something, which I'm not 100% sure I believe, but that's what the rumor mill says.
Would you be there for it, Jordan? StarCraft 3 drops. You ready to go?
Yes, because I'm very pro StarCraft and very anti MOBA. So we could correct history on that.
You want the pendulum to start swinging the other way?
Yes.
I'm with
Although
you.
Dota's in the book. Dota is in the book.
Yeah, fair. Having crossover myself, that's probably the right position.
Jordan, anything else you want to talk about in terms of that we missed that is not specifically us just kind of reminiscing about Game of the Year times? Because I feel like that's where you're going to get with a bunch of old game journalists is just like, back in my day, Game of the Year.
I mean, that's kind of what the book invites, right? It's about it's nostalgic. It's this whole history trip. I mean, we talk about the art. I love the art. Again, I'm really proud of my own writing, but I think with all the guest writing in it, that really takes it up to like a really great definitive. Like I think it's like a top tier book about video games. Trying not to be super narcissistic, but that.
No, by all means, you're here to promote, man. Like, sell the damn thing.
You're saying it's Book of the Year for Game of the Year.
Oh, for this year, yeah.
For this year.
What would you say your other what is another favorite video game book of yours? What's another top tier one that you've enjoyed?
I mean, Jason Schreier's books are great. He's in the book as well, so that was cool. Alexis Ned, who's in the book, she wrote a young adult romance novel about esports players called Don't Hate the Player, and it's very good. The Boss Fight book series is a cool series if people don't know what that is. Kind of short individual books about one game, kind of like 33 and a third, I think, is the music. So that's a great series. I still need to read that Tomorrow and Tomorrow book. That's all about game developers, I guess. And it's like a great piece of fiction, apparently. I still need to read that.
Okay.
But yeah, there's tons of great books if you put down the controller. So.
Never. The
Read some
live
damn
service
words.
has me. How am I going to get my battle pass, man? If I'm reading books.
Barnes and Noble Battle Pass.
That's right. I'm sure Barnes and Noble had some kind of customer loyalty thing. They did. They were just like, get enough books, stamp it, and then you get some free cape that you can wear in Barnes and Noble. I think the art and the color really pops on this thing. It's extremely vivid. Like it's did you talk about the layout and stuff of it as you were going through it?
That was more the publisher just showing me. I just trusted them because Abrams, their specialty is they do a lot of art books and coffee table books, and so they have a really good team for the kind of the visual element that we thought would be a great match. That was them just showing me stuff. I'm like, looks good. I couldn't do this, so great.
And if you're so in terms of people buying the book, what's the best way for folks to get you the most money?
The most
when they buy
book.
the book? Yes.
I think people should buy the physical paperback if they can. If only because I think the art just looks better that way. I mean, any version you buy, I appreciate. You get it on Kindle, and that's a great option too. But I think I want as many physical versions of it just to exist across the world. Is my desire. You can support an independent bookshop. That's probably a cool thing to do.
What's that? I've never heard of that before. What's an independent bookshop is what you said?
Bookshop.org is a pretty good umbrella service for that. Astoria Bookshop in New York here has a bunch of signed copies from me. You can order the signed copies online, I think. But But yeah, we'll get from your library. I think even when people check out the library, there's some sort of cut there too.
I'm gonna go check and make sure my library has a copy. That's a good point.
I was just at my hometown library this past weekend doing an event. So,
and did they
South
have it
Jersey.
on the shelf, or did you have to
It was checked out. By the time I got there, it was already checked out.
Sweet.
Very good.
I will say I was back in California the week it came out, and my local there's 3 stores chain bookstore had it. So, distribution's out there. You can find it.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And something I've been saying too, like a big inspiration for it has been, like the way that Giant Bomb would do the guest game of the year list stuff, where it's more about the discussion of the game than even like what is correct or not, and having this variety of voices. So that was definitely a big inspiration to the audience listening to this that knows, I'm sure he knows what that is.
Yeah, looking through it,
scrub their memory.
It's terrific company to be in, I will say.
I remember second guessing myself a lot as I would look at the guest lists coming in, because it's like, man, these picks are like way broader and arguably more interesting than the like very mainstream stuff that we're fixated on for hours.
So you have a little bit of kind of a post here or an epilogue of looking forward. We are a little more than halfway into 2023. Your book kind of officially ends in 2022. What do you think? What's game of the year this year? Well, I mean, not the best game, but like what is the pick if you had to write the chapter?
I think I would probably still pick Zelda. To rectify not being able to pick Breath of the Wild for 2017 because of Fortnite. And yeah, I just love that game, and I wanted an opportunity to talk about it. And I think I kind of ended up writing what I think that chapter would be on PC Mag. The way that game, even more so than Breath of the Wild, really draws upon Nintendo's like toy making sensibilities, with like the Ultra Hand like being named after an old Nintendo toy, and just the vehicle combination, just the playfulness of that game. I think is really interesting. Also bolted onto still kind of Nintendo's attempt at like a AAA game, like a big open world action RPG thing, but with all these playful elements that only they are really doing. I think is an interesting mix. I think it'd be something I would probably talk about in the book if it got pushed back
when the second edition comes around.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, now that you've gone through this whole process, do you think could you see yourself feeling the pull to come back and do like a second, even third edition down the line of just like, well, another 5 to 8, 10 years have passed?
That would be cool. I'm working on some other things I won't talk about.
You don't want to give us a hot exclusive or anything?
Worst games of the year that we're talking about, the things that destroyed the industry.
I hate this game.
A whole book of negativity would be too much. It would be a bad headspace to be in for a year, because the bulk of the writing for this book was done like 2 years ago. So I'd have to be just thinking about talking crap on games for like 2 years.
That's what games journalism. Hey, what are you talking about?
At
we
least
live in it.
At least when Roger Ebert did his book of terrible reviews, those reviews were already written. He didn't have to redo them again and spend a year just like floating in the worst movies of all time.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to also having like a legal team check the book was an interesting process too. So I think it would be, when you're saying less than glowing things about a game too.
Sure,
be a lot more rigorous fact checking.
Did your editor, like, were they pretty knowledgeable about games? Did they come back often and be like, what is this word? You wrote, this is not a real word. This doesn't, and you're like, no, this is totally a word. Like,
so my editor, Connor Leonard, is great. He knew games. He also edited John Romero's memoir that just came out.
Okay.
From the same publisher. So he knew games, but the fact checkers, that was a different team. They didn't always necessarily know games. So I was just very lucky that I would just take notes on everything I did. So they would be like, in the Metal Gear chapter, like, did someone really call J. Edgar Hoover a well-known racist in this game? And here's the YouTube clip where that exactly happens. So,
oh man, that's video games are so dumb.
I do not want to draw the ire of the Hoover estate.
No.
Well, it's available now. Yep. Like you said, across wherever fine books are either lent out or sold. It's a lot of fun. It's cool to just, like, I just thumbed through it. I did not read it in order, but I kind of almost was looking at this being like, should I like introduce my kids to all these games? Is this a roadmap for like, hey, you should, because my son is way into not just games, but like the foundational knowledge of games, and I feel like this is he reads all those Mario anthology books, or the like history of Mario books, the history of Sonic books. Hey, can we get the first one of these? I want to play the first one of these. So I feel like he'd get a real kick out of being like, oh,
I would be so honored to play even any part in the Caravella Legacy.
Great. In a debate at a dining room table about why Super Meat Boy was on this list, or whether it should be or not.
Because Flash gaming is an important part of gaming that needs to be remembered, as Flash is just destroyed from the internet.
Super Meat Boy is kind of great.
Tom Fulp, founder of Newgrounds, is in the book. That was cool. I'm glad that we got him. So.
Yeah, what did you pick?
I'm sorry.
He picked Gunstar Heroes.
Okay.
As influence onto like Alien Hominid for him. And stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, you avoid the mistake we made for way too long of saying like, okay, it's got to be a commercial product, it had to sell for money, blah blah blah. Because like you pick Counter-Strike in here because like mods got big, and mods
because I couldn't pick Half-Life.
Sure. But like you said, like Flash gaming, it's like for a long time we would have been like, no, a Flash game can't be eligible for this. So like you cast a wider net for this stuff, which was the right move for sure.
But yeah, I mean the Counter-Strike pick, I mean again was some of the picks were to make up for the lack of other picks in other areas too. So it's like Valve should be in this book in some form or another. So that ended up being a way to get that. Or I picked System Shock, but I'm not going to do also BioShock. That frees up 2007 for all the other games in that year. So
it's always horse trading, man.
Even with yourself,
just horse trading with time.
Yep. No, listen, time's going to win overall. If it's the game of the year, it's going to be time. It is Video Game of the Year, a year-by-year guide to the best, boldest, and most bizarre games from every year since 1977. Jordan, I also have to say, excellent author's photo.
My wife took that. Thank you.
It's a great picture. Like, I'm assuming if you zoom out, you're petting a dog on like the rocks in Maine with like a lighthouse behind you. I feel like author's photos are one of those things I immediately go to be like, okay, who nailed it and who didn't? And it's a great photo.
My wife nailed it, so I'll tell her that. She'll be really pleased.
Give her my congrats. It's a really nice photo.
That's a cartoon. Well, people can't see it, but that's a cartoon picture of us. For you guys can see it, but
I can
it's like
see
the Simpsons couch.
Yeah.
Yes, it's above all of your Video Game of the Year books on your shelf. I love it. Are those all signed behind you?
I don't think all those are signed though, but it could be.
How many did you sign?
I think I've signed at this point like 100 between all the events.
Okay.
I think it's like 100, yeah. Because the event, we did the Story Bookshop event, and then we did one with the New York Game Critics Circle, the hometown thing. I signed the whole stock at a Story Bookshop to have for later. It's been a lot. And my handwriting sucks.
I was gonna say, did you invent a signature for this for a signing?
Yeah, I think. Was this the one that's signed? Yes, this one right here.
Show us your signature here.
Here's another thing that. Another
very
visual
nice and close
for
to the
podcast.
Yeah. Make sure it's on something we can. Okay,
all
so
right.
I'm going to assume that's a very good author signature. I assume that's not the same signature you would sign your check with. Did you invent one for the book? Just say yes. Just say yes. You did.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a video podcast, so nobody could see that signature anyway.
But just for the sake of your lawyer, who I'm sure is listening, he would love to know that you have a different signature on stuff.
People who are scanning that into the front page of their book to be like, well, now I can write any check I want, Jordan.
Yeah. Hopefully they just get mixed up because it's just like this silver pen on a black background. Maybe that'll trip them up.
Yeah, that'll get them. The computers won't know what to do with that. All right, Jordan, you're going to stick around. We're going to talk about more video games, even modern ones. But again, Video Game of the Year available now. Very fun read. A lot of other people in there too. Again, forward by Dan Reichert. You can hear it here.
The Dan Reichert.
The guy likes video games. I mean, guy's met a lot of people. The guy likes video games. All right, stick around. We'll be right back. This week's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. Brad Shoemaker, Alex Navarro.
Yes, Vinny.
Rocket Money. Do you have subscriptions to things?
Well, that's a very personal question, but maybe.
Yeah. Do you have a thing that maybe you paid money for to get a service?
There was a period in my life where I was subscribing to many services, maybe too many, and I had to purge them from my life. And let me tell you, I could have used perhaps some sort of device or service that could have told me, you are paying for this thing that you are not using.
No, there are plenty of things I am subscribed to that I have let just go because when I check the bill and then it comes through, I'm like, I'll cancel that, and then I don't cancel it. But Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Rocket Money is here to help you manage all your finances in one place and automatically categorize your expenses so you can easily track your budget in real time and also get alerted if anything looks off. Over 3 million people have used Rocket Money, saving the average person up to $720 a year.
It's a lot of money.
I want to be the average person in that. I'll take that. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. That's rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. rocketmoney.com/Nextlander. Thanks, Rocket Money. We are back, and we are still joined by our guest, Jordan Miner, author of Video Game of the Year and senior analyst at PC Mag. How was that? Is that very NPR?
It was correct. Yes.
Definitely didn't edit that out and do it again. No, I'm sure. No, I really did. I got it on the first take. Jordan, you played Disney Illusion Island.
Yes, I did.
You reviewed it, you said.
Yep, on PCMag.com, where I work, as you just said.
It's all coming together.
Everybody's going to think I really did edit it. I definitely did not. Look.
Switch reviews on PC Mag?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a little computer in your hand.
Mac reviews on PC Mag?
It's a whole can of worms not to be opened, I'm sure.
Yes.
So tell me about Disney Illusion Island. I think all I know about this game is it looks like a kind of co-op. It's got that older / newer brought back Disney style.
The new retro,
which kind of just seemed to me like Disney making sure that copyright doesn't expire on their older characters. You said when we were off mic, kind of a Metroidvania.
Yeah, so I didn't really know what to expect with this game other than the fact that they were calling it Illusion something seemed like they were really trying to be like, here's a real game. Like we're referencing like games that people like. So this isn't trying to be some throwaway thing. So I'm like, okay, I'll give this a shot. But like you said, yeah, it's a Metroidvania for kids. It's a whole big map they're going to. You're crisscrossing around. There's abilities. There's certain
nice, good use. Yes.
Areas you can't get into until you get the new power up it's co-op. It's Mickey Mouse, it's Minnie Mouse, it's Goofy, and Donald Duck. Very angry in this game. Maybe that's a more old school characterization. He's very surly in this sort of Steamboat Willie style.
Have you seen the new cartoons in this style?
I think so. That Disney World ride is in that style too, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's pretty angry in the new stuff too. Just a big crank. Like
I think he always kind of was in the early days. He was sort of the cranky character, and then they kind of softened him when they gave him nephews and Scrooge McDuck to deal with. Because you can't have two cranks in the family.
Yeah, once he was in, he was Bob. Was he Bob? Not Bob Cratchit. He's the nephew of Scrooge in the very seminal and the best version of was that
Christmas Carol?
Christmas Carol, yes. But he's the nice nephew in that, so maybe that's when he softened up a bit. In the new one, he's
back and angrier than ever.
Okay, great, right. Fantastic. And so when you're playing co-op, is everybody getting all the same abilities at the same time, or do the characters have different abilities?
So it's interesting. The characters all get the same abilities, but they are like represented in a different way. So when you find the thing that gives you your ability, it's like for your wall jump, how Mickey Mouse wall jumps, he takes out a big pencil and sticks it in the wall. But when like Goofy wall jumps, he uses a plunger, and it's the same effect, but it's visualized differently.
Something a little more character specific.
Yeah.
Did you? Is it challenging?
So you can adjust it. You can have it so that it's only you take one hit and you're dead, or you take as many hits as you want and you're fine.
Okay.
But what's interesting about it, beyond the Metroid thing, is that there's zero combat in this game.
I saw some people mention that.
Yeah, it's all just about the platforming and the sort of light puzzle solving. And there are enemies, but you're just trying to avoid them. They're just, they're obstacles. So there's no combat at all in this game. Which I respect as a choice for a kid's game, that it doesn't have to be violent.
Totally.
You don't have to accept violence. Even though I wanted to, like, you have to get over your reflex of, like, can't I just, like, step on this thing? But there's no combat. But I do feel like in taking that out, they didn't quite find something else to replace it with, to make the game interesting in the long run. Because the abilities you get are pretty standard Metroid abilities of, like, like a double jump and a wall jump and, like, a grappling hook.
Air dash.
That's kind of the double jump, I guess,
Okay.
is to get some more height there. Or like swimming. So those are all pretty expected. And yeah, with no combat, I just felt like there was just something kind of missing at the center of it to make it more interesting. But that, to me, as an adult man, Metroid player for years and years. But if you're a kid, I think it's a really cool introduction to, like, a big non-linear map kind of a game.
My son played a lot of, and my daughter also, Ori, and like that. Do you feel like this? Easy question. What's a better game, Ori or this? Easy, just binary choice.
Well, Ori's better, but this has Mickey Mouse in it, so
yeah, they're not big,
Hard to argue
they're not
with.
big Disney fans. They're not. What did you rate it? Did you give it a number?
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on PC.
Okay. Okay, and Switch only.
Sounds
for
good
now,
to
right?
me.
Yeah, Switch only. It's from the people who made that Battletoads reboot from a few years ago.
Oh, that
interesting.
thing.
Yeah, which was bad, I think.
That was not good.
So I think this is better than that.
Okay.
Does it seem viable as a single player game? Like, do you feel like you're missing out on anything if you just play it by yourself and ignore the co-op?
I played it entirely by myself. The only thing I think was more tuned for co-op is that the bosses, again, there's no combat, but you're having to do these sort of little platforming challenges, and doing all of those by yourself, it's just the same thing. So it's not like it feels more tedious because it feels tuned for, like, 4 players doing all these different challenges on the map at once, and then moves on to the next thing. Yeah. But beyond that, I played it all by myself. I think it handles really good. I think all the jumping and stuff feels good. But yeah, I think it's just missing a little bit something at the center to take it to the next level. But
do the characters have collision in the co-op? Do you know? Like, are they bouncing off each other? Or are you messing up? Is it like New Super Mario Brothers style, where, like, this is more frustrating than not?
they have, like, abilities in co-op where they can, like, help each other get to certain places and, like, heal each other and stuff.
Okay.
And kind of do like leapfrog maneuvers and stuff like that.
Okay, but you're not, like, both trying to jump at the same time and somebody just winds up in a pit, because I guess it could happen. It looks, I'll say this, I was just looking at some more pictures of it. It's got a nice look.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that very classic art is pretty striking.
Yeah.
The different biomes. Yeah, there's like a farm biome, and there's like a robot mailroom kind of environment. It was kind of interesting, and then space. So.
Always space.
My last question, which you touched on at the beginning, the use of the term illusion, was that just a cynical play on nostalgia on their part, or does it actually feel connected to like stuff like Castle of Illusion in any way? To you?
I think the connection is just that it's a Mickey Mouse game that they put effort into. Because those were pretty straightforward 2D platformers, I think. So it's not, it's a Metroidvania. But yeah, I think that's what they're trying to just signal, is that we have some faith in this, and they should. It's good.
Do you know if this is coming anywhere else, or is it like locked up on the Switch?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the Switch, I'm gonna buy games for this old console. It's gonna be outdated soon. I'm gonna load up games on it. It's $40. It's available now. Came out like a couple of days ago, right? I think.
Yeah, like late July. Yeah.
Alex Navarro.
Hi.
Tell me about Venba.
Venba. Yeah, this is a game I remember hearing about some months ago, and had kind of I filed it away as, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll check that out when it comes out. And then it came out. So then I did that. It is a narrative adventure game that is, I think, on pretty much everything, or will be on pretty much everything if it isn't already. It's from a small team under the banner called Visay Games, and it is, as I said, it's a narrative adventure, but the centerpiece around it is two things. It's an immigrant story about a South Asian couple, an Indian couple, who emigrate to Canada and then have a son and sort of raise him. And it's told in vignettes that sort of take place over many years of their life as they are sort of struggling against, what would generally be considered the immigrant experience in, a Western country like Canada or the US. But the thing that it kind of revolves around, the thing that like a lot of the story kind of centers on, is food. The idea being that, the culture, like individual cultures around the world, and this is, as someone who's, let's just say, watched a lot of Anthony Bourdain and has heard this refrain a lot, you learn a lot about different cultures just by their food, the cuisine, what people serve to you wherever they are. And, in this story, it's very much about using food both to kind of keep a measure of, the culture they had in India with them as they are, trying to find their way in Canada, and also like make it so that their son can understand a little bit about like what life back home was like as he is raised in an environment where, he is speaking English natively and sort of like struggle, like kind of pushing back against the idea of like learning the Tamil language and, kind of adhering to the traditions of Indian culture. And so, sorry, go ahead.
Well, was the kid born in Canada or did he come over
yes.
young? Okay.
The game starts out with just the couple being there, the husband trying to find a steady job, the wife trying to find work and education and kind of getting rejected over and over again. But so then you get these little they're puzzle recipes, basically. They'll give you a dish and they'll give you this cookbook that was inherited from the wife's mother. But a bunch of the recipes are kind of smudged or otherwise, not fully readable. So you kind of have to divine certain things about like what order to put stuff in. They give you the tools. You just kind of have to find the right way to do it. It's pretty lightweight in terms of gameplay, and there's not really any penalty for doing it wrong. It's like, oh, it didn't work out right. Try it again. And it's like the thing about it that really stands out is that it's a short story. Like it is, I finished the thing in under 2 hours. But it is exactly the right amount of story that they give you. Like it feels like a nice, thoughtful animated film. In that regard, it's telling an interesting story. The characters are pretty, like, they're understandable without feeling like they are just kind of dipping into tropes that are, kind of well worn in this sort of story. Like it feels like there's a lot of warmth and a lot of like nuance to the way these characters are written. And I think that, the thing they hone in on with the food stuff is absolutely right. It is a really interesting aspect of, people holding on to their cultures when they move to other places. And I think the way it is portrayed and the way it is implemented in the game is really neat.
It's got a nice look to it. Like the kind of painterly style, illustrated style to the characters is awesome.
Very good soundtrack too, which is like a nice mix of what sounds like, traditional Indian and also like kind of popish Indian music.
Is the cooking stuff mechanically, is it anything like Battle Chef Brigade?
Very, like I'd say you could draw a line to it, but it's not exactly the same. Okay. Like the mechanics are very light. It really is just like grabbing an ingredient, tossing it in there. Sometimes you have to shake a thing with using your mouse or, make sure that you line up certain things in the cooking dish right so that the steam rises in the right place, that kind of stuff. But it's all very lightweight. Like, again, there's very little penalty to it. It is really just about you kind of finding your way through it more than anything else.
Sounds a little Cooking Mama-esque.
Yeah, but again, without like the time penalty or like the stress of it, it's really more about just kind of luxuriating the experience. And I'll say they make their food seem very appetizing.
That was gonna be my other question is it one of those games where you're starving by the time you're done playing it?
I wanted some fucking biryani like as soon as I was done. Like okay. I immediately wanted that.
Yeah, I have not eaten today, and I need to get this animated GIF out of my face right now.
Yeah,
I'm just staring at all this food.
Yeah, it looks cool. It's $15.
Yes,
or at least on PC, it's $15.
It's under 2 hours, but I think it is exactly the right length for the story that they are telling.
Give it up for short games.
Yeah,
right.
Give it up for games that know not to overstay their welcome.
But it's really well delivered, and I had a very, very nice time with it.
That's the real service.
Yeah,
Respecting your time.
Hell yeah.
That's right. Another game that came out fairly recently that I jumped into just for a bit, wasn't sure what to expect, is The Expanse, subtitled A Telltale Series. I'm not going to go.
Can they do that?
I think they can.
Can they call it that?
I think they can. We talked about this somewhere where we were talking about The Expanse and what is Telltale. What does that even mean at this point? I am unclear exactly what that means.
I looked it up the last time we talked about it and then promptly forgot all of the specifics.
So Telltale is publishing this, the current Telltale entity, but Deck 9 also co-developed it.
Okay, I want to say new Telltale is like a decent chunk of original Telltale employees, but I can't remember exactly how much.
I had to figure some of this out for the book in the Walking Dead chapter.
Okay, so can you fill us in, Jordan? Like, where is Telltale now?
However, it was like a year ago.
Okay, because there was like a holding company, like holding, or wasn't it like some kind of like we bought the name, but the devs aren't there for a bit?
Because the layoffs were so severe, it triggered like the Warren Act or whatever. Yeah, because then even for like The Walking Dead, that became separate. It was like Robert Kirkman's whole people picked that up. But yeah, it's a whole other thing.
So this is, I mean, that aside, the kind of business human side of Telltale, whatever that is, development side, it is a Telltale game, if that makes sense. Like,
I mean, everything they've shown of it really indicated that it would be, but it's the thing now is like just trying to tease out exactly where the Telltale is coming from.
Right. So maybe inside the house, I'm not sure. So, but it is based off of or in the Expanse universe, which it's been a very long time since I read Leviathan Wakes, and I only watched a bit of the Expanse series. Jordan, are you familiar with the Expanse series?
No.
Okay. No. So I'm not sure exactly what they're pulling into or not. They did have some voice actors that were in the show that I recognized that kind of make cameos in here. But I guess the big question is it good? And I've really enjoyed it so far. I've only played like let's call it not too much more than an hour-ish of it, but it's been kind of dramatic. The voice acting's been pretty good. The characterizations seem pretty good so far. Again, I'm not that familiar with The Expanse, especially the TV series, which it seems like if they're taking the actors and actresses from it, then they're probably referencing that. So I can't tell you, I can't speak to that, but I don't know. I'm curious. What do you want from a Telltale quote unquote game? Right? It's some good characters, some mystery or propellant to get you to make choices.
I just want someone to remember that.
Yeah,
That's
is it full on so and so will remember that, or if they made the mechanics a little more subtle this time?
I broke up a fight and it said, "Dude will remember that."
Okay.
Subtleties for cowards. Just give me the I will remember that or not.
I think it says remember that. It definitely is something along those lines of like, like name pops up and it's like you've done a thing that will have some consequence or be of some consequence.
Does it feel like the presentation has evolved? Right? Evolved much? Because isn't that something you guys brought up when you were playing that Star Trek game, which to be clear is not actually Telltale, but
it's another studio of ex-Telltale devs that made that.
So I think this game looks pretty good and and controls all right. I'm not gonna say it's gonna win any awards, let's say, for looks.
It's not video game of the year in that regard.
Look, it could be Telltale game of the year.
Okay,
it's already The Walking Dead. It's already The Walking Dead.
Yeah. Well, whatever Telltale is, I don't even. Again, I can't speak to what a Telltale series means here with The Expanse, other than trading on the name. But other people can fill in those gaps there. I really came to it mostly from an academic curiosity of what does this engine look like? Because it was straining towards the end of the Telltale run.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's pretty good. I think it's modernized and feels all right. I played it on the PC. Again, looked okay, sounded okay. Faces seemed pretty good and emoted pretty well. It's there are a lot of helmets on, obviously, but seemed all right. Like it's not an action game, so you're running.
I would hope not. If it's Telltale,
you're running around. It's not like the snappiest controls and like wow, this jump feels super good. but it's interesting enough where you're exploring kind of derelict spaceships and you've got full control of your character in third person, and it doesn't feel like they went and broke the engine to do it. You know what I mean?
Apparently, you're deciding whether certain characters lose their leg or not.
Yep,
according to the screenshot.
I let him keep the leg. Seemed pretty happy about that. So yeah, it's neat, and the premise or the short thing they're setting up is they do the thing where there's a really tense situation out of the gate, and it kind of puts your character in a situation where they're about to make a huge choice, and then it goes 8 hours earlier. So it does do that, and I was like, oh, come on. But
bastards.
Yeah, but it is in decent service to what they're setting up. It kind of works out, pays off pretty quickly, and like, okay, all right, I kind of want to see how we got there. You got me. It's cliche, but you got me. That's the Expanse of Telltale series, $40. I am playing it over on I believe it's Epic only on the PC right now. I don't know if it's coming over later to other PC platforms. Also, I fake beat Pikmin 4. I saw credits on Pikmin 4. Jordan, have you played much Pikmin 4?
Yeah, I played a lot of Pikmin 4.
Do you know what I'm talking? You're nodding
I know what you're talking
knowingly.
about. Yeah, you're maybe halfway through the game.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly.
Wait,
so
what are they doing?
Okay.
Jordan, there's a lot in it.
Jordan, let me know if this sounds accurate. It seems to me by the time you see credits, they're like, look, you know what this game's about. There's going to be a lot more doing the same thing that you've been doing. We're going to give you credits in case you want to put this game down and feel good that you got to a point in this game where you're like, okay, I think I saw enough. Because the mechanics probably don't change that much from this point on, right? Like, you've seen all the big hits.
Yeah, it's a post game. It reminds me of kind of some of what they've done in some Mario games of like you hit the credits, but then here's like the real kind of challenging extra kingdoms and stuff, and like a lot of them.
I think like you said, like half of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love this game. I gave it a 9 out of 10 at PC Mac. And part of it was just how much it ended up having. It kind of sneaks up on you how much is ultimately in this game. So like when you hit the credits, you're at the end. That's like at the end of like the kind of fourth area.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are 2 more other areas that are as big and more difficult. So that's another like half of the game.
Wait, is there not a third area? Because I'm in the second big area. I'm in the second big area, but it looks like there's room for one more thing on the bottom. So I don't. Without spoilers, is it just not like another whole area? Because I'm still missing an onion that I think I'm gonna get, and that's a part of this game that I'm not sure how I feel about. The kind of limited resource Pikmin.
Not sure about those onions.
Yeah, versus like just give me the dang onion and stop making me worry about losing my Pikmin.
Yeah, because they do that with the Pikmin, or they're like especially useful.
I know,
and that's what I liked about it. Is that it makes you feel there's more kind of resource management.
Definitely,
I can't just sacrifice all these flying Pikmin.
And to that end, they do have a rewind feature, which is like, look, we get it. You don't want to lose. You made a big mistake. You just lost 40 Pikmin because you didn't move your Pikmin out of the way when this giant sponge fell on them or whatever. So like you should and they really put that in your face. So like you should rewind. You lost too many Pikmin there, man. But yeah, I don't know. You were okay with that kind of resource challenge?
Yeah, I thought it was just because I don't think the game up to that point is that difficult.
No.
So yeah, just having another thing to sort of think about. Because also that dog is so powerful and
super
so useful.
Powerful. You could just send it. I don't know if you played any co-op in it either. The second player is basically broken. It's like they just get a turret basically, and they can hit things that won't aggro you, so you could just kind of hang back. And even bosses sometimes you could just stand back after you trigger the boss and just have the second player shoot rocks infinitely at the boss and be like, yeah, I'm not losing any Pikmin today, it's all right.
Yeah, I kind of wish that they let people just play as the dog though, to do like co-op that way, like because Yeah, Pikmin 3 did that with the 3 captains. You could split them up. So that kind of felt like a step back to me a little bit.
That's what my son said. Same criticism. Said I like the co-op better in Pikmin 3.
You're raising a games critic. Yep. I'm sorry.
Yep. I mean, he's right. I guess I get it. Or maybe there's a Pikmin 4 Deluxe that'll come sometime that'll let you do that. Because you can, for those that don't know, you get this dog that is very powerful. The Pikmin can ride on the dog. It's basically an independent character, kind of like the other captains, but you do not have co-op control of it. I will say this. I'm enjoying this game. I'm going to try and wrap it up. I'm bored of the side stuff. I'm bored of the Dendori battles, and I'm kind of bored of the night missions. I feel like I've got 3. I don't want to give any spoilers away here. This isn't really spoilers, but I have 3 people I need to tend to now. I think I'm about to get a 4th that I need to do a night mission for, and I'm like, sorry, I'm tired of doing those. I just don't want to do
Tapped out.
them. Yeah.
With those especially, I just started doing the thing where the guy will just play them for you.
I haven't unlocked that yet.
Okay, there's something where maybe he's a castaway you find.
Okay.
Maybe, where if you fail, or maybe it's when you fail the first time, they'll just do it for you.
Yes. Okay, Dingo or whatever will do that.
Yeah.
He gave me the option to do it, and I was like, no, I'll try this again. But he'll just do it for you.
He'll do it for you, and then you'll still get the resource you need.
Okay.
So I started doing that for some of those, so I could focus more on the caves that I thought were kind of the more interesting.
I think the caves are caves are basically, for lack of a better word, they're like little instances almost, or of like, okay,
shrines.
They're kind of like shrines. You get a set number of Pikmin. You don't have access to get backups or recruits. You have to basically, you know what they're like, as someone who appreciates StarCraft, Jordan, they're like those boarding the ship missions where you go in with a set number of troops and you're like, okay, you're only going to get the troops you find in the ship. So make sure you don't you can't lose them willy-nilly, right? Because you're not going to get reinforced. You can't build more troops. And they're neat. That's where a lot of the fun boss battles are. It's where the most puzzle solving is, kind of like a shrine. And the overworld is basically like, I don't know, find a cave and a tomato.
They're a good way to grind out too Pikmin you don't have the onion for. If you find like those little flowers that can convert them, you can grind them out that way for a pro strat.
Can I ask you a spoiler here?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Do you ever
game's out? So
yeah. Do you ever get a white Pikmin onion?
That is very, very, very post game. That's like post game stuff.
Okay. That's way out there for me.
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's the thing of my son and I, every time he comes back, he's like, did you get that onion? I'm like, I haven't seen it yet. He's like, all right, here's the ones I think we're going to get. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I'm not sure, because in the description it says you only get them through the flower. And it's like, so we're very curious about getting that onion. All right. So I've got some more to go.
Yes. All onions are in the game, but some are very, very obscure and not on the critical path at all. Even for the post game, not on the critical path at all.
I've been trying to 100% each level before I move on. I think I should just go and get the onion, get the resources and go back.
No, that's how I play too.
Okay.
And I enjoyed playing it that way.
I do. It's fun. And they make it so easy because a dang dog can just sniff out whatever you need, and it's like, yep, this is easy. Yeah. Nothing else on there.
You get him fully upgrid. He's
a monster. he's just soloing everything for me. It's very funny, and I'm like, they do add bosses where you have to trigger some status effects sometimes, so you do have to like put your Pikmin in the game once in a while, so the dog just can't completely solo everything. But I like it. I'm not 100% sold. Again, it's that Pikmin scarcity that I don't love, when it's like, oh man, earlier on in the game when I was like, I gotta get some ice Pikmin, I gotta go like run this dungeon and go like basically pick up some ice Pikmin and then bail out of the dungeon when I have enough. In the game you can freeze water with ice Pikmin, but it kind of takes a lot if you're trying to freeze big piles of water. So sometimes I'd be like, I could do this if I have 60 ice Pikmin. I gotta go run that dungeon 10 times and go get them. Yeah. 9 you gave it?
Yeah, I really ended up enjoying it. For that post game especially really ended up making me think a lot more of it. Of just like, there's actually a lot more in this game than I would have thought. I think the dog stuff is great. I think they like streamlined a lot of previous Pikmin concepts in good ways. Because even the caves were in 2, but that was kind of more of like a roguelike almost. Like they were like randomized somewhat. Whereas here they're very like designed puzzles. And yeah, I feel like they just really put a lot into this one. They're really trying to be like, this is like an important game for us. Like, finally pay attention to this, please.
I don't know.
It's on the Unreal. It's on the Unreal Engine. It's a real game.
I don't know if the people, we talked about this last time. Like, I don't know where Pikmin rates in the Nintendo like catalog. I feel like it's kind of far down there.
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
mean, they're
I like
still
it too.
making them.
They
It's
are.
not like it's F-Zero where they just forgot they even own it. Like, they're still doing it.
Yeah, it's the most AAA Pikmin yet. There's a skill tree.
It's true, and there's like there's almost like not necessarily role playing elements, but you can kind of get gear and and spend currency, and I think it's pretty good. I'll be curious to try and wrap this one up. I hopefully am not too far out. We talked about this briefly last time. I'll just ask you this, and then we'll wrap up Pikmin 4. What do you think about the removal of the kind of timer mechanic of how many days in mission you are?
Oh, here we go.
I like that. I like that they took that out.
I like it too.
I don't need that kind
Okay.
of stress.
Wow.
And if you want that kind of stress, the game maybe has that for you.
Oh. Uh-oh. Okay. I'll leave it there then. Oh, man. That is Pikmin 4. That is out now. So would you, am I safe to say I kind of beat it? But not really.
Yeah, you beat it. You beat it. If you're satisfied, yeah.
How will we know if he's satisfied?
No, the game. You're right. The game gave you a perfect off ramp. It knows.
Do they show the credits again?
Yeah,
They do. Okay. So there's another
yeah,
credits.
because it's like there's a whole other very significant boss and
That's
everything.
so funny. That's so funny.
Has there ever been a single more influential Steam review? For
Then
that
how
Steam
do I know if
review?
I'm satisfied?
Yes, I can't imagine.
It's a great question. I mean, it's the question.
It's like everything not saved will be lost.
It speaks to the mentality of the Steam reviewer in a way that nothing else has.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to come back. Unless there's other games you guys want to talk about. Okay.
I mean, unless you want to hear me talk
so
about
I-
Oklahoma and American Truck Simulator, I think we're good.
I re-downloaded Mortal Kombat 11.
Okay.
Yeah, so did I.
Okay.
What are your
Evos this
intentions?
weekend?
What are your
just to-
intentions?
Just to play it again. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
thinking about Mortal Kombat.
Yes,
That new one,
yes,
so.
as one often does. I've been thinking about going through the whole story mode again before.
I just played the last fights of both of the
Okay,
the campaign and then the aftermath stuff just to
Sure.
see that stuff again. But-
sure.
There's like a beta opening up again, right?
Late August, I think, for like 3 days. There's a
Okay.
pre-order beta. Or
Is that just
something,
one of
I
those
think?
early, like play it early things then? Because it's
yeah,
okay. It releases early September, right?
late
Something like
September.
that.
Oh, late
Yeah.
September. Okay.
So it's
Starfield.
19th, I think, something like that.
That sounds right.
September.
Okay. Well, we'll be back. We'll talk about those when they come out. But before we do that, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk about the news. I'm excited to talk about this news, something I feel like we've been leading up to since Nextlander has been around.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like more of a possibility than ever. We'll be right back. Stick around. This week's show is brought to you by Bespoke Post. Brad Shoemaker.
Hi, hello.
You are aware of the Box of Awesome.
I get the box of awesome, and it's pretty awesome.
I also get the Box of Awesome. I have gotten a bunch of knives, all very cool looking knives. I got one that was like for digging recently in the outside. It came with a bird collar,
A digging knife?
a digging knife, like a trowel knife thing that was actually pretty neat. Like, so it's one of those things where I'm like, I would never buy. I would never know this even existed. And then like, this is pretty handy. This is going to go in my kit. You have told me though that you have gotten a bunch of
Whiskey accessories?
whiskey accessories. You've gotten a bunch of whiskey stuff in your Box of Awesome. That sounds kind of fun.
I got some old-fashioned mix. I got a handbook. I got a barrel.
Brad, no matter what you have going on this summer, Box of Awesome has you covered, from camping gear essentials like a knife trowel thing, a cookout must-have, and drink game upgrades. Let's say like a barrel for your whiskey. Box of Awesome has collections for every part of your life. And to get started, you'll take a quiz at boxofawesome.com. Your answers will help them pick the right Box of Awesome for you. They release new boxes every month across a ton of different categories, and each box is valued at around $70, but you're only going to pay a fraction of that price. Plus, with each Box of Awesome, you're supporting small businesses. 90% of everything that comes in your Box of Awesome is from a small and up-and-coming brand. It's free to sign up, and you can skip a month or cancel at any time. Get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up at boxofawesome.com and enter the code NEXTLANDER at checkout. That's boxofawesome.com, code NEXTLANDER for 20% off your first Box of Awesome. Boxofawesome.com, code NEXTLANDER. Thanks, Bespoke Post. We are back, and Jordan Miner is still with us and ready to commentate on the big news. The big news. Jordan, have you heard the big news?
Yes, I went to journalism school, so I always heard the big news.
Okay, Jordan has put on his his cap. It's got a little press thing in it. Look out. Here we go. Ready to confirm rumors. Brad Shoemaker, you have written down in the news doc a thing I feel like we have been talking about since the Switch released. What do we got?
Yeah, thereabouts, at least the last year or two, let's say.
Definitely.
New Nintendo Switch or new Nintendo something finally happened. We have our first actually sourced report about concrete details about the next Nintendo thing.
So would you say, and this is open to everybody, Jordan, news person, is this confirmed then? Are we just getting a new Switch next year?
I think so.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, we've had scuttlebutt and kind of analysis from analysts.
So much.
You know, over the last couple of years, looking at supply chain about, they're likely to do this, things got pushed back because of the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. But this is full on Video Games Chronicle coming out saying they have spoken to multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next gen console plans, quote unquote. Eurogamer also came back around and said, yes, we have confirmed parts of this with our sources as well.
Yeah.
So this does seem pretty trustworthy. All right, here are the details as we have them.
Give them to me.
The company is likely to release new hardware during the second half of 2024 to ensure that it has ample stock available on day one to avoid the kind of shortages seen with the PS5 and Xbox Series X/S, which kind of implies they probably could launch it, say, in the first half, maybe, potentially.
Yeah.
Switch was a first half release, wasn't it? It was in March or something.
Switch was a March release, so they are definitely not averse to putting out a console early in the year. What else we got here? This one reads like so duh to me, but I guess you have to spell everything out. Although specific details are being kept closely guarded. Sources indicated that the next gen console would be able to be used in portable mode. It's like, okay, you don't say.
That's not a duh to me. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty big one, but it's not a duh.
Like, dude, if they don't just make another Switch, another thing in the mold of the Switch, like throw the entire management team out the window.
Yeah.
Like that.
It needs to be backwards compatible as well.
Yes, that is another
Please
thing.
God, yes.
Another thing in here that is less than concrete, I guess I would say. Other details such as backwards compatibility, support for Switch games remains unclear. Let's see. They're talking LCD screen, not OLED at launch, to try to keep costs under control. They're saying it'll have more storage because, of course, it will, because games are bigger now. Still have a cartridge slot,
right?
Which seems like it's increasingly irrelevant detail. That you still have facility for physical releases. Let's see. I think that might be everything we've got for now.
No real tech specs to speak of at this point.
No real specs. Although there have been plenty of rumors floating around about that stuff as well.
Yeah, the article kind of, the back half, I feel like, on the Video Game Chronicles kind of goes over the, there's anticipation for this, but there's also some challenges, right? Like what software are we looking at coming next Switch, right? Like what we got a lot of things that just came out on the Switch and like what's going to move over. How do you convince, I think this article explicitly says it, like how do you convince the more quote unquote casual players that they can get a better Mario Kart version on the next Switch than they have on their current Switch? There's a lot of really good versions of Nintendo's marquee franchises on the Switch. Maybe the best Smash Brothers there's been, right? Maybe the best Mario Kart. Okay, there's been
the game of the year, Smash Brothers.
That's right. That's right.
Book.
Speaking of Smash Brothers, I don't know if you saw that Sakurai recently he's past the inflection point in the cycle where he went from, oh god, this game almost killed me, to time to start thinking about the next game.
Give the man.
I'm thinking about what the next 7 years of my life are going to look like.
It's like clockwork. He goes straight from barely getting the game out to like, oh, here we go again.
I mean,
At least he got to go do some podcasts in the interim.
Yes.
What do you do on the next Smash? Like, what are you even thinking about? You put every character that has basically ever been in a Smash Brothers in Smash Brothers Ultimate. It's called Ultimate. Like, what do you can you start by having I don't know, Jordan? Do you know what the initial rosters are? Are they like 32?
Something like that.
Like,
like Brawl had 35. I think Melee had like the high 20s or something.
Okay.
First game had 12. I know that.
Maybe start back there. We go back to 12.
Yeah.
I think we go back to our blob of the year, and I think it's the Fortnite model. I think it becomes a platform. It's like, you get a base level of characters, you get all the modes, and then they just start adding stuff over and over time. At a certain point, Travis Scott is in Smash Brothers.
I can't believe
and Travis touchdown.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but like Nintendo is kind of the one company I would like to see take a stab at live service still, just because they've never done it properly. It's like they came
Bite your tongue.
They came out with Animal Crossing, and it was like, well, this is pretty awesome. Like, you should keep this going for a while, and then they put out like one DLC, and then forgot it existed.
That booster pack on Mario Kart is definitely a toe in the pool. Let's say
that's a reasonable value. Let's say.
Yeah, it's good. It's pretty good. I mean, they had the character packs in Smash. They've had those.
True.
Splatoon is kind of like that.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yes, actually, what are the weekend events? The Splatfests?
Splatfest.
Yeah. Those are cool. You're right.
But they still do it in a very Nintendo way. There are always things that you're just like, I wish it was a little different than the way you're doing it, but that's the Nintendo way.
But Nintendo has its kind of unified account now, right? It has you as a user with an account linked to something online.
Yeah, and uncharacteristically, they have confirmed that will be coming over. Finally, for once, they will have continuity of account system from one console to the next, so that's cool.
Yeah.
That actually does touch on probably the most infuriating part of this Video Games Chronicle story. Nintendo has said this is like following from we don't know if it's backwards compatible or not. Nintendo has said it wants to convert as many of Switch's 100 million plus user base as possible. Although some third-party publishers are said to have expressed concern that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles.
I mean, that's true, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have to listen to them, is the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Don't listen to your shareholders either.
That is, I don't know, that seems like extreme, like can't see past quarterly results thinking to me, because it's like, hey, backwards compatibility helps you build an install base faster, and then you have a bigger install base to sell new games to.
Here's my very elitist 2 cents, and yes, my nose is high up in the air, but like
put on your fancy pants. Let's go.
Here are my fancy pants. Like, look, I ain't coming to the Switch for third-party games. Like, my third-party games are elsewhere, so like, don't worry about it, Nintendo. I'm coming to Switch for first-party games, and make your first-party. If your first-party games are knocking it out of the park, they're gonna come to the Switch. You're gonna be okay.
You're not wrong, but I have to believe that is something Nintendo would very much like to change.
Oh, well, I mean, they had the opportunity. I mean, okay. Let's say third-party cross-platform games. Let me be specific there, okay?
Yeah.
And saying
not happening.
Yeah. So if there is a somewhere else to play that game in a comparable way, I'm probably playing it somewhere else. Third-party Switch exclusives, I'm still
that's a different story.
I'm playing on the Switch, yes. So
but I'm saying, if I was Nintendo, I would love to change that narrative at some point, that this is not the platform for playing the big third-party cross-platform games.
Yes.
I have a soft spot for some jank-ass Switch ports from third parties. What if I told you that's how I was playing Mortal Kombat?
Okay, sure.
No,
sure.
You'd be lying. That's not true.
No, you can do it. You can play Mortal Kombat on that console.
And I will say that years of doing that kind of primed me for Steam Deck not being necessarily the best performing version of those PC games, but having it in that handheld context is worth the trade-off for me. In
totally.
More instances than not, I ended up learning about myself.
Have you streamed the game? I've never done the streaming. Have you done the streaming on the Switch?
I did that with Control.
Okay.
And they had like a graphics option and performance option, and graphics option was just completely unplayable. But the performance option of that ended up being pretty okay. I played the whole game that way.
Okay.
It's better than Stadia, I guess.
Whoa. Shots fired.
Huge
Take that
slam
Stadia.
on Stadia out of nowhere.
Did you get a Stadia? Do you still have this?
They sent to us. I think this Android phone I have is one they sent to me for all that testing.
Nice.
And then I played Just Dance with my wife, and she's like, "What is this? What is even happening?"
The Stadia controller's now in a museum somewhere. I'm super excited for a new Switch, mostly because I want those first parties. Like I said, I want them to run the best they can. Do you think we get a 4K Switch 2?
I mean, something that can output 4K, almost certainly. Like something that can push 4K graphics natively, absolutely not. Not even fucking close.
So you're saying the ability to push out, there's a 4K ability to put video out at 4K. Will the games run at 4K? It's
super loose, but the rumors and also looking at what the likely NVIDIA hardware is that could be in this thing, like people are sort of looking at performance in the ballpark of a PS4 on this thing.
Okay.
Just to put it in context, but with hardware that could do DLSS, that could upscale graphics quite nicely.
DLSS is quite a thing.
So you would get a lot more performance out of it that way, but still, something that can output 4K, yes, but yes, not doing PS5 ports.
Would you? Well, okay, let me ask all of you this: barring first year of this thing coming out, say it comes out 2024, barring some big marquee Mario or something releases. Do you think it would be enough to say, like the Xbox did, of like all these Switch games will run better and will have kind of a native frame rate, maybe a better graphics pass, not work done to it? You know, what was that called on Xbox? Like when it was just like, hey, your older games are just going to run better or some of that.
It was sort of like Xbox One X enhanced was the kind of language they used for stuff like that.
Do you think that's enough to get people to come over?
You mean enough as in there is not a substantial launch lineup of new games?
It's like a kind of typical, maybe a little light, but like not, like I said, not a marquee Mario.
They've got to launch with one banger at least, especially after this long.
Okay,
because this will be 7.5 years, right?
I just don't know what's ready. What's ready at this point? I guess a new Mario.
And that's Metroid Prime 4.
Man, what a can of worms. When was the last time we heard anything about that? I've filed that away in the like don't ever think about this again mental box, and like if they surprise us and show it at some point, cool, but like that thing feels like vaporware almost at this point.
Do you think Metroid Prime 4 is enough? Like is Metroid's up there? Look, I'm not saying Metroid isn't a system seller, but it's not a Mario, it's not a Zelda.
When was the last time they launched without a Mario or a Zelda? I'm trying to think. Like GameCube, even GameCube had Luigi's Mansion, which is not exactly a Mario, but kind of.
What did the 3DS have?
Yeah, you're right. 3DS was a pretty weak lineup. God,
it had one, but I think it had like an HD update of like an N64 Mario or Zelda or something at launch, didn't it?
The Zelda one came a few. The Ocarina one was a few months later.
Yes.
Though.
Okay,
yes, that's right.
So launch window.
Yeah,
my memory of the 3DS launch is just Pilot Wings Resort.
Yeah,
and then the apology. Like those are my memories of the 3DS launch. Was like the apology shortly after of like, sorry, it was so expensive. Here's a bunch of free games. Yeah, I like late 2024 will be 7 years since Mario Odyssey, so I don't know exactly how those teams are divided up and like who gets put on what projects. But if there's been a team thinking about the next mainline 3D Mario for 7 years and making one potentially.
Are you telling me that Mario Wonder is not a mainline Mario? Are we going to have this argument right now?
Look, come on.
I forgot.
I'm coming on, man.
I forgot about it.
I see no reason to think that it can't be.
Wait, when is that game coming out?
It'll clean up.
That's
this holiday.
Yeah, it'll be huge. But look, the 3D and 2D franchises are separate at this point, basically.
You're going to get a 3D Mario, and it's going to be voiced by Chris Pratt, and it's going to launch on this in 2024.
And I'm going to get the fuck out of video games then.
And it's going to be awesome because now they finally have the power to have Chris Pratt's voice in Mario.
Absolutely not.
They've got to launch with something big, and a new 3D Mario sure would be it.
Or like a huge gimmick, right? Or like a kind of a Wii motion gimmicky thing, like a Wii Bowling, Wii Sports Resort thing that is like, hey, you got this killer thing on here that it's got some new, I don't even know where we go at this point, balance, motion, running, fitness, heart rate tracker, eye, cardboard person, I don't know. They've done it all. It's Nintendo. Wow.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left.
Yeah, considering the response to everybody wanting to Switch, or lack thereof, let's say, about a month ago. Did you know that came out?
They sure did just drop that thing out of nowhere.
I think motion is kind of done for them.
Or as like the central thing.
Yes.
I think what's cool about the Switch is that they found a way to kind of have it all.
Totally, yeah.
And how it's like how modular it is.
Yeah,
I kind of wish they did more with that. Honestly, I wish they did put out more weird controllers, because now they have a format that they could do that without like totally compromising its ability to play normal games.
Sure. I think it's like maybe the one downside of the Switch design is that you do have to account for people playing handheld, so you've got to consider everybody's use case and make sure that it's playable in every format.
Yeah, or just abandon that audience.
Yes, also an option.
Abandon the handheld audience?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that new WarioWare is all motion, so that'll...
True. Yeah. Sorry, Switch Lite owners.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of it for now, but...
I mean, it's a big one. I mean, it's the first, real, no, seriously, you are doing this.
It's not exactly proof of life, but it's close to it.
It's good to know. I think it was like a year since an analyst said late 2024 or something, so... I guess it's been out there for a while, but it's good to finally know for sure.
When do you think, if this is going to launch in the back half of 24, how close to launch do you think we actually start hearing about this officially?
Like summerish, E3 kind of time of next year.
And you think it launches like October or like pre-holiday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds plausible. I could see maybe some kind of like tentative reveal that's not like here's what it looks like or even maybe the name, but just some like, hey, we're working on the next thing and it will have X, Y, and Z, like maybe sometime this year. There's a report on a site I've never heard of called Start Menu that seems plausible, but also I have a hard time believing. They're basically saying that they're going to like confirm the existence of this thing at Gamescom.
So
that seems so un-Nintendo like to do that at somebody else's trade show.
It seems extremely un-Nintendo. And I'm never, even from years of following the industry and covering it, never quite sure what the best bet is in terms of selling existing software that developers are working on in your current system and then dropping a new console, right? Like you have to have that sell through. Your developers are working on stuff for the Switch, right? And they're like, you cannot announce this new Switch before our thing releases, right? Versus getting anticipation and promoting your new thing for the longest period of time, right? Because as soon as you drop, if the Switch drops in September or late August or something, and they announce it, all those devs that are making games for their Switch, hopefully, I mean, this article does say that dev kits are out there, right?
Yes, that was the other detail. I knew I was forgetting something. Yes, the dev kits are supposedly in the hands of developers now.
So maybe there's a transition period where Nintendo is allowing current in development software to be portable to the next platform in an easy way, so that developers don't get left hanging with older console, quote unquote. I don't know. That always seemed to be a balancing act for launching new hardware. Because remember last gen where it was like Sony was like, nah, it's next gen or bust, and Xbox and Microsoft was like, it's all a big family, whether you're here or there or everywhere. And I don't know, it seems like it's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, the X factor here, it's worth pointing out that this generation has been so long for them that hardware and software sales are both down double digits this year.
I saw that in here.
For the Switch.
Yeah.
So they are really kind of pushing it on that front, which actually in that context makes me think, like, how are they going to make it another year and change? Like, what else do they have?
I feel like this holiday is their last holiday of just Switch. I think Mario Wonder will be the thing that is like kind of that last big boost.
Totally.
But after that, yeah.
I mean,
God, it sounds so foreboding when you say it that way. The last holiday of Nintendo.
maybe they just kind of play it cool next year leading up to this. Software wise, I don't know.
Maybe they do start the promotional cycle, and it's all about promoting, the Wonder, whatever the next big thing is.
No, the Wonder's coming out this year.
The Wonder, yes. Maybe that's what they call the next system.
The Wonder Switch. There's a Wonder Switch.
You said it. Now it's a thing.
Finally, the Wonder Swan reference we've been looking for.
Wonder Swan fans get excited.
I look forward to hearing more. Obviously, so does everybody else. Maybe
make a console. Do it.
Do it.
You have
Just
our
make
approval.
It compatible, for the love of God.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Seriously.
Backwards cart compatible too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you're putting a damn cart slot in that thing, absolutely.
Okay. Hey, listen, I ain't the hardware design, I'm the engineer who has to make that work. I love, what was it, the 3DS or which one had the 3DS could play DS games, right? It had both card slots.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yes.
And then it was the Wii had the flip up thing that you could put the was it the GameCube controllers in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. We could play GameCube. Wii U could play Wii, and also technically GameCube if you hacked it.
So Nintendo's out there. They got your back. They know what's going on.
Well,
they have done it,
Yeah.
but you're
got
right.
my back is maybe overstating it a little.
Yeah, if they don't do it here, they have really blown it. Though.
No, I agree. I agree.
Bring even their whole like virtual console
Yep.
subscription thing over too.
Definitely.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to suddenly resubscribe to a new thing that only got me the games I started with on the last platform.
I got bad news for you though, Brad. You will have to buy a new N64 controller on the next thing. They will not make that controller work.
Yeah, they're moving to Lightning ports for some reason.
It's compatibility issues and you know. All right. Again, looking forward to more on that in some amorphous period of time. Next up here, Brad and Alex. I guess I'll start with Alex here. Physical collector of games and media.
No.
And also a lover of Like a Dragon and the everything there. Brad, you put a story in here that says they're going to break Alex's heart.
Yes.
Well,
he's
maybe
probably
not.
fine.
He's
He'll
fine.
get a
I think I'm
review
okay.
code. What does he care?
He's okay.
that's the real thing, is that yes, I am a physical media hoarder, but not so much with video games these days. After the last gen, about halfway through last gen, I kind of stopped buying physical games, and I don't think I've bought a single physical PS5 or Series X game.
Okay.
Yeah, I almost jumped to the Jedi Survivor story because both of these kind of dovetail with the Switch and new consoles and where physical releases are going and blah blah blah. But Like a Dragon Gaiden coming out in, was it October, right?
Yeah.
What is it? The Man Who Erased His Name, right?
Yes.
The best subtitle in the history of video games. Will not have a physical release in the West, it seems, and outside of Japan, or maybe other Asian territories also are getting a boxed version, I think. But over here, digital only, which,
Yeah.
we just had this news with Alan Wake 2 a few months ago, and that was at least somewhat understandable because Remedy is still independent and conceivably might need publishing help from a partner to get that out, but Sega is Sega.
Sega can do it if they want to.
Sega can put out a physical release if they want to. It seems they are maybe just opting not to. So,
I don't want to speak frivolously about this because I do think having physical versions of these games out there is a worthwhile and useful thing to have, and I think it does give me a little twinge of disappointment, even if I'm not planning on buying a physical version, to say we're just not doing it. But also, we have the last 10 years of evolution in video games and online marketplaces, and this was always where things were heading.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, though. I also, I feel for the people that still want the physical, collector's thing. B, if they have bad download speeds. But
yes,
they're, but, and I'm not saying it's a justification. A lot of these games, you got to re-download the thing anyway on day one. So it's
there's always like a 10 gigabyte patch that you have to have.
If you're lucky, 10 gigs. Sometimes you just download the whole damn thing over again.
When we talk about this with Control, I really came at it from a preservation standpoint, and in that sense, games that don't even really function off the disc without a huge download are like not worthless, but approaching such. Yeah. In the sense of being able to like play it in a museum in 30 years. The thing I had failed to consider then was the resale value of physical games.
Yep.
Or the tradability, the whatever you want to call it. Like we still have zero capacity to resell digital games, right? After however long.
I want to say yes across pretty much all marketplaces that we know about, right? Like nobody is allowing buybacks.
No, I feel like I remember some weird rumors about
kind of
that,
did
like
too,
10 plus years ago when digital games first started really becoming a thing. There was some talk of like, they might let you
trade keys,
sell them off for a third of the price. And
was that part of the whole original Xbox One pitch?
It might have been.
That would be part of how they would justify all their DRM insanity.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
I should go back and look. Maybe they did say something about that being a possibility.
It may have gotten lost in the noise of everyone hating what they were talking about.
Yeah. I mean, like Valve has turned it into big business of letting players resell stuff and taking a cut of it. Anyway, we don't have that, so physical releases are still important from that standpoint.
Yes.
And I mean, there will be a physical version of this game. It's just you'll have to import it from Japan if you want to get it. And I think the people who want to do the preservation work probably won't have any issue doing that. It just makes it less convenient. I just think it's the unfortunate reality that we were always barreling toward, that like more and more releases, especially like this, that aren't like quote unquote mainline games, even though this is by all accounts sounds like at least a fairly meaty Yakuza style campaign, if not a full, however many dozens of hours game. Like, this stuff was always going to be the first stuff they started making those kinds of moves with, like stuff like Remedy, where, it's an independent developer, and, I'm sure Alan Wake 2 will be a big game, but, if it just makes more financial sense for them to do it, this is where we're going to start seeing this, and it's not going to be long before the major publishers start being like, well, more people download Call of Duty than buy in the store, so I don't know.
Or it'll be prestige editions or like super deluxe editions that have a physical copy.
You can only buy the $120 version in stores,
Yeah, like a disc, the physical edition. We've seen that for some releases, right? Or like, oh, it's a physical edition of the game, and like that's the collector's edition that costs $90 or something. So
even those increasingly at a disturbing rate are no longer coming with discs, are no longer coming with copies of the game.
Yeah,
like the $150 version is a bunch of trinkets and a code.
Yeah.
So some bullshit that is not video games but is adjacent to what we're talking about here. Disney is putting out a physical release of that WandaVision show in a steelbook.
I just want to say.
Yes, but it's for you. It's only for you guys.
Okay.
That is literally just a steel box with a download code in it. Like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Wait, video games have done that, so I can't. And
that sucked then too.
Yeah, and it sucked then too. But like, is that one of those things where like you just want to have it on your shelf?
I think so. It's for collectors who want their like complete MCU shelf or whatever. But also, that is fucking pathetic.
Yeah.
That is a pathetic thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, kind of rotten for like, look, there are some bastions of physical media left. I feel like your heart is still in the movie physical media space, at least if you've gone all digital in games.
Yeah. I just think that it's like, if this is the thing we're barreling toward, why are you just manufacturing cases to sell in stores? That's the worst part of physical collecting, is all the plastic and metal waste.
Yeah. All right. That is Like a Dragon, digital only in the West. Sorry, Like a Dragon Gaiden. Brad, you mentioned Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
What's up with this story here of a Jedi Survivor, a game that came out April.
Oh, so 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
Yes. The game that came out in April on PS5, Series X, and PC and struggled to run smoothly on all of them.
Yeah, well, okay, look, on the console it wasn't that bad. PC got some rough business, though.
It was pretty bad on the console as well. Now it's coming to PS4 and Xbox One, according to Andrew Wilson, CEO of EA, in an earnings call.
I guess he would know.
I think it's unclear at what state this port, or like at what point in the process this porting effort is. Thanks to the strength of this legendary franchise and community demand, our development team has committed to bringing this Jedi experience to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
What is wrong with it? Why can't he make a normal sentence? What is that?
Because he's an android. Because Andrew Wilson is literally a fucking robot in a suit.
Look, I've seen GPT-4 and shit. Like, it's gotten better. Like, he can string up better. This is the large language model on Andrew needs to be updated to know what the next word is supposed to be when it goes to search a database. And the next word after Jedi is not experience. You could have found a better
Everything's
word.
An experience now, man. That's all it is.
Aren't we all just seeking a Jedi experience at the end of the day?
Yes, I want to be satisfied with my Jedi experience.
Good Lord.
How do you know if you're satisfied with your experience?
You can't. It's impossible.
It's really impossible. I guess if it runs at 30, that I know if I'm satisfied. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yes.
If you read between the lines on this, it really just sounds like we got enough complaints on our forums, so we took some low-level employees and shoved them into a room and said, all right, make these run on these consoles, which sounds like just the worst fucking thing in the world, and I'm sorry for them.
I'm
sorry.
I'm curious.
Yeah,
Sorry.
maybe they did not hit whatever sales target they thought for like a Star Wars game, and thinking like, oh, there's so many people on these old consoles still that it's maybe still worth it.
Oh, what if this is like bonus related?
Like a make
like
good?
They have to hit a target or something in order to hit a bonus level or something.
I bet that game did great. I mean,
I'm sure it did fine.
I think it did. Let me see if I have any press releases about that.
Like, how many like just totally next gen only games really even are there?
There are very few right now.
Still not that many.
I mean, it's PC as well. Again, the PC release was probably the most troubled, right? Like in terms of performance.
It had some problems.
Yeah, probably. This kind of reads like they've just pivoted and decided to do this late in the game, but maybe they actually planned for this all along and just didn't put the resources into it until now. Hard to say.
I mean, they are saying our development team, so maybe they're not farming it out, though. Maybe they also just have a light release calendar in the kind of next 6 to 8 months or whatever, and they're like, yeah, this will be a big enough release. Like, I mean,
I think when we were talking about EA, we were specifically just like, what do they still put out anymore that is not Star Wars and sports
and Apex
and the occasional Battlefield thing?
Yeah. This is probably not going to be Respawn doing this, right?
I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Respawn, so it could be any number of different facets of Respawn that's working on this.
I could definitely see support studios helping with this. I'm just curious to see how it comes out, honestly.
I want to see those load times. All right. That's Jedi Survivor coming to a last gen near you in the not clear future. Brad, said you put this one on here for me, and I appreciate it. Because nobody talks about those Transformers games enough, and they were pretty good. They were pretty good games. No comment from anyone.
Go on.
Which one? The
what you think? You think
War
I'm playing those?
for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron.
Oh, those are great. I love those.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Yeah,
Jordan.
they're good games.
Yeah.
They're probably like some of the top Transformers media, period.
Yeah. Well, you'd be like better than like the cartoons and
Yeah, if you look at really the whole
some of them,
expanse of it, yeah.
they're good games. They have done toys off of those. They have done related universe media off of those. Not specifically talking about the toys. Brad, do you mind if I go and just kind of say what this story is?
Go for it. I've been trying to think of a 40 sounding headline through this whole news thing, and I finally got it. The case of the disappearing Transformers games. Go ahead.
So, apparently in an interview with TFW 2005, which is a website I go to a lot for checking on the status of Masterpiece Transformer releases and third-party Transformer releases. I use their boards a lot.
Can I jump in and ask what the 2005 signifies?
It's probably, I don't know. I feel like I looked this up at some point. Maybe it's when it launched, or maybe it's when like a community split happened, which is maybe how those things go, My
first thought when I saw it was like, are they saying that's the last time Transformers was good? Like, is that because that's right before the Bay stuff started?
Oh.
I don't know. Anyway,
in this interview with Transformers World 2005, they were saying that it would be awesome if we could bring these Hasbro could bring these games over to Game Pass and all this modern consoles, let's say, to be playable. But that's not going to happen because Activision lost the code in this interview. Is what was stated by Hasbro basically to TFW. Since then, Activision has come and said, whoa. We did not lose the code. This is wrong. They have contacted, it sounds like numerous outlets to be like, put out numerous statements to be like, this is not true. Took a little bit for them to come back, and maybe look through some files or some hard drives. I don't know, Brad, do you think they lost the code?
Entirely possible that it's actually still gone. I'm not going to say I disbelieve them. I'm going to say the actual truth is unknowable here because everything about this reads as oh my God, somebody at this company said something they absolutely should not have said that painted our business partner in a bad light, and we've got to clean this up immediately. Also, maybe that person's getting fired. I don't know how high up they were, the person who said that. But
I can say, just as someone who has been in these kinds of meetings about video game things, I guarantee you there was a conversation that was had with someone at Hasbro when they were talking about, hey, what if we remastered those video games? And I bet what was said was, we could do that. We don't know exactly where the code for these games is, and we would have to we would need some money and some time to figure out whether that's feasible or not. And this person took it as we lost the code, because I guarantee you, if they do still have the code for those games, I bet they're on a hard drive somewhere, and I bet they don't know the exact location of that hard drive.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take it a step further, because the quote from Hasbro was when a company eats a company that eats a company, things get lost, and that's frustrating, right? So I assume that person was probably talking to maybe even somebody who's involved in the games, dude, I don't know where that shit is. That shit's
in a warehouse somewhere. I couldn't tell you where.
Totally, right. Those hard drives are somewhere else.
It's entirely possible Activision still has all the assets. It's also entirely possible they know where they are. They may not know where they are.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm really saying is that these follow-up statements have no truth value of their own. It very much just feels like saving face.
Or it's massive ass covering. Totally.
Or, again, further on this, in that interview, they said, because they said there were toys made off of the War for Cybertron and Cybertron series.
We should mention that. They also say they had to straight up pull designs out of playing through old games because Activision couldn't find the assets they needed to send them over.
Which again, it could be that's the impetus for this whole thing. If somebody was like, "Hey, can you send over the raw models?" and somebody was like, "I can't find that stuff. I don't know where that is," and that was like, "Oh, they don't have it," versus somebody just being like, it's not worth the time to go get that stuff for this thing.
If you think a company is bad about keeping track of source code, imagine what they have with concept art and character model art and stuff. That shit is shoved so far into the back of everything that of course they don't know where that is.
So they have come out very hard and said that's not the case. And Alex, to your point of somebody getting a message inside of Hasbro,
a very frantic text, yes.
Yeah, apparently Totillo got a response from Activision pointing him towards a comment from Hasbro, and the Hasbro comment says, to clarify, comments that suggest Transformers games have been lost were made in error. We apologize to Activision and regret any confusion, as they've been great partners, and we look forward to future opportunities to work together.
Mm-hmm.
Which definitely sounds like, go on, keep talking. They're also they smell really good, and they're very tall. I don't know. Go on.
Happy about this merger. So happy for that.
So happy. Everything's great. Everything's fine. How's about you? Very.
Okay.
Under duress.
Here's the thing. I'm trying to piece together here is that the thing that's kind of shocking to me is just how quickly Hasbro towed the line on that one and how quickly they folded on it, because it's I would have thought Hasbro would have been the dominant in that partnership, I would have thought Hasbro, considering they're the license holder for all things Transformers, would be the ones to say, hey, we don't have to run out and prostrate ourselves for the sake of you guys saving face on these games that you can't locate for us.
Oh, man.
How many toys is Hasbro making for Activision licensed stuff at this point?
I bet there's more than... they make, I don't know who makes them, but someone makes Call of Duty toys.
Yeah.
It could be Hasbro. I don't know.
If it's them, then okay, I understand that.
I don't know if that's what's happening.
Could Activision now being Microsoft also?
It could also be
that
them being
could be part of it as well.
How they beat the U.S. government?
Yeah. It could also be Activision and somebody from Microsoft being like, you guys need to work this out. Or maybe Phil Spencer's calling up Activision and be like, I heard you guys don't have the Transformers code. This changes everything.
We're canceling the deal.
Which is good. You didn't tell me this. I thought we were getting Transformers. So it may, I don't know. Look, those games are very popular. I think they're cool.
Yes.
They're great. I would love to play them again.
Yeah.
There's that new one coming out, from Splash Damage or something.
Yes. What is that?
Oh, right. Yes.
It's that weird, realistic, gritty. I don't know.
Is that a 4-player co-op?
Transformers Reactivate?
Yes.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Keep forgetting about it.
Have they shown it? Like, I know they showed that trailer, but it was hard to tell if any of that was actual game or just CG.
I think that was the last time they showed it, was when they showed that off.
Yeah, there's nothing new on the website yet.
Transformers. It's more than meets the story. More than meets the eye.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to go on. They need just to prove their leadership, and then the code will reveal itself to them.
That's right.
That's right.
Somewhere Bobby Kotick is ripping open his chest. The code is inside there.
There's something in there. I don't know if... I don't think it's source code. It's more like sulfur and brimstone.
Yeah, he thinks he can pull one over on Unicron. It's not going to work out well.
There's people being like, Bobby, how are you still alive? You just tore open your ribcage. Don't ask those kind of questions. Anyway, reach in there and grab the hard drive. Oh God,
to have
Bobby,
a skull in there.
It's just soul screaming in there, Bobby. I don't want to reach in there. Reach in there and grab the code. It's where I put everything important.
Oh, the Pitfall chapter was fun. Got to talk about the history of Activision.
Oh, boy.
Where they've gone from there until now.
I'm sure it must have been a trip for you. Like, it's so weird thinking about the pre-Bobby Kotick Activision because it was a totally different company.
Yep.
But they are such a specter now. Thinking about, they were kind of like cool, scrappy rebels back then before everything changed.
Yep, that's history of video games.
Did you get much acclaim in there? Was acclaim mentioned in the video games of all time?
No.
Wow. Didn't even hit the chart.
I don't think they had that many all-time games.
Nobody
is the
picked
thing.
Turok for anything?
I just listened to a very long interview with Trip Hawkins, of all people, who was talking about how Acclaim had kind of like most favored partner status on the NES.
Okay.
Somehow, like they got to put out a ton more games than everybody else.
I can see. I feel like I saw a lot of Acclaim logos.
Back when Nintendo limited how many games you could put out. Also, boy, that interview with Trip Hawkins, that man has an ego.
Oh.
Well, yeah.
It was impressive.
Cool name, though. That's going to do it for the news. By the way, maybe a new Switch. It's pretty big news. Also, pretty big news is that on the Watchcast end of things, I'll say also pretty big news is that we have a podcast with emails, but we're not going to do any emails this week. But if you want to send them in, I'm going to remind you that's podcast@nextlander.com, podcast@nextlander.com. But what I was going to say about the Watchcast, going back to big news, we have finished season 1 of Twin Peaks.
Yes, we have.
You can kind of hear our thoughts on the season and on the season finale, which is, Jordan, have you seen Twin Peaks?
Not the whole thing.
Okay.
Just, enough to understand some memes.
It's good. I feel like
that's all you really need.
I feel like I'm there with you now. We watched the entire season. We had our season finale watchcast. A lot of fun. You should go check that out. Next week, we are transitioning over to anime and starting with Serial Experiments Lane. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is the correct full name of it. Lots of people just call it Lane, but that is the full name.
We have watched the first 3 episodes. Things are heating up in Lane. I have no idea where things are going, and you can hear me say as much in the recording of that watchcast.
I think you will have that response through a lot of what's going on here.
Okay. But I'm very curious and so far very into it. So you can hear all of our thoughts there over at patreon.com/Nextlander, where we have things like the Watchcast up. We also recorded Never Been a Better Podcast. I'm working on that this week. That should be up at the end of the week. You can hear Dan Reichert's platform for a better America. It involves, I think, Alex, it involves getting rid of all the bees.
It involves getting rid of all the bees, but it also includes open borders. So who can say whether it's a good platform or a bad one?
We're almost there on the bees part.
Yeah. So maybe not that far away. So you can hear his platform over on Never Been a Better Podcast, hopefully coming up this Friday. Over on the Patreon, also on the Patreon, that's patreon.com/Nextlander. Bunch of different tiers there. One tier is the Mysterious Benefactors tier. We talked a lot about Mass Effect over on the Ramblecast this week, and our Mysterious Benefactors over on our Patreon get their names read on this here podcast, and I'm going to do the honors of reading Mysterious Benefactors here. Starting with Ryan Waterman, RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deidre is rolling for initiative, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Bunny Fiend, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Mega Crane, Razgriz 2, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. And thanks again to everyone who has gone over to patreon.com/Nextlander to support us. We, of course, appreciate it. Whew. It's a good list.
Brad was so scared of our mysterious benefactors, he had to run out of the room.
I thought I heard his doorbell.
I think it was his doorbell.
That's going to do it for the podcast this week. Jordan Miner.
Yes.
You've got a book.
I do.
Got a dang book out.
Yes, it's called Video Game of the Year. It's out now wherever books are sold. I'm very happy with how this book turned out. I'm very proud of it. I think I'm very happy with how my writing is. I'm very pleased with the contributors in it. Alex, thank you again for being in the book.
Thank you for having me. It was a nice thing to be offered, and I was happy to do it.
Again, the artwork, phenomenal. If you don't know anything about games, I think it's a really great way to get a good overview of, again, like almost 50 years at this point. I think if you are someone who loves games a whole lot, you will appreciate the kind of more in-depth criticism of a lot of different games and some like from some more even like less like known picks from the contributors. That's where you have your mainstream kind of split. Is the main chapters are more mainstream, and then the contributors got to go more buck wild with, Pixel Junk, AM, and Jurassic Park from '93 or something. So again, between all that stuff, again, if you can't even read, I think the art alone is worth looking at and buying in this book for. But yeah, I think that this is one of the best video game books out there, and I hope people check it out.
You would say that.
Should say that.
You should.
Yeah.
You should say that.
I've been saying it a lot these past 3 weeks.
Are you at the tail end of the book tour?
Oh, this first part of it, but I'll be talking about this book forever. It'll exist.
It will.
For months and months, and people can buy it whenever they want.
Years even.
Years.
Decades. As long as there are books, this book may, and you never know. Maybe you got to go back in there and punch it up for 2023. See where video
New
games
edition.
go. And if I'll say this, all those Speed Freak fans out there, you're going to be real happy for Hot Rod of the Year.
You might want to clarify that statement ever so slightly.
Just
like a smidge.
I'll say it again. Speed Freak fans, you're going to want to turn to page 22 and see what's going on over there. There's a little surprise in there for you. Jordan Miner, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us not only your book, but your time.
Yeah, I had a great time. Again, I've been fans of you guys for a long, long time. So being able to do this has been a real personal satisfaction. Now I know that I'm satisfied because I was able to do this.
Oh no! Does that mean you're going to stop listening? You're put it down. Yeah, you're satisfied. You put it down. Well, thanks again, Jordan, and good to see you. It's been a bit. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for our podcast. Like I said, we got the Watchcast from this week with the season finale up. We played more Remnant 2. We're going to have a grab bag coming up this week, and then we'll be back again streaming on Friday. Along with Never Been a Better Podcast, hopefully on Friday as well, and the Ramblecast, all that good stuff. Thank you, Alex Navarro.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad Shoemaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks.
And we'll be back next week.